I have 50 ideas for how we can lock in, chase not quick, but slow dopamine and really have the best summer. Summer is one of the only times in the year where I actually feel that I have spare time. And unfortunately, I've been falling into the trap of cheap dopamine. Cheap dopamine is like quick dopamine. It is easy to get and it also lasts very short. On the other hand, slow dopamine is really talking about dopamine that is harder to obtain, but it lasts a lot longer. And this is the key and the topic of today's episode. And we're going to get into like what is dopamine versus serotonin versus like endorphins, these kinds of chemicals and neurotransmitters that we've been hearing about online, but we don't really understand what's going on. So I'm here to tell you what I've learned. Just a little bit about myself. If you're new here, it's Cafe Sunday. It's a podcast all about well-being, productivity, and of course, cafes. I'm Jessica, your host. This podcast was born from my other socials on Instagram and TikTok where I review cafes. So if you're more into that content, definitely go check me out there. But today's drink is again a Diet Coke. But before we get started, I did want to highlight one cafe that I went to recently, Cafe Paradiso, which I know is trending in New York City. Okay. I know. Before we begin, the cafe drink of the week, I guess, of the episode. So every episode, I recommend one cafe that I've recently tried and one drink that I think y'all should get if you're in the New York City area. So this week's cafe drink of the week is Cafe Paradiso's salted brown butter oat milk latte on draft. So it's comes out on a tap, and because it does, it kind of has like a foamy top. I kind of waited a little bit too long. Next time, drink some of the foam because I think that's also what makes it fun, but the flavor is phenomenal. The reason I say that is because it's a salted brown butter. So it has like this kind of black volcanic salt mixed throughout the drink because they put it in like almost like a syrup. And I think that's also that brown butter syrup. It creates a deliciously sweet and salty combo that I think everybody should try at least once. It's definitely one of my favorite lattes in the city. And if you don't have to wait in such a long line, or if you see that they don't have a long line out the front, then I would definitely check them out. Okay, I could talk about cafes probably this whole episode, but I think this really gets into today's episode topic, which is slow dopamine. Okay, before we get even further, what even is dopamine? Dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins are all hormones and neurotransmitters. So they transmit signals inside the brain. Dopamine is responsible for motivation and really the pleasure reward pathway. That's what we associate dopamine's function with in terms of signaling. So it drives your motivation. You have a goal, you feel motivated to reach that goal. And once you do, dopamine gets released and you feel pleasure as a result. That's kind of like the pleasure reward pathway, very much simplified. Serotonin, on the other hand, is more about feeling content. So that's your sense of well-being. It helps regulate, for instance, anxiety. It regulates also your mood. Then endorphins, we might think about Legally Blonde, for instance. Cardio and high intensity interval training releases endorphins. These are what pushes you through that last or second to last mile. And then once, this is a key though, once you power through that discomfort, dopamine is released. So there you go. These hormones obviously all work together in tandem. Your body is an amazing it's a machinery. So some of these will release slow dopamine. They'll also maybe release some serotonin. So one of the ideas that I have for slow dopamine is to check off all of the places that you've been saving on socials. So I get a lot, since I like do have run a cafe like Instagram and TikTok, I get a lot of videos related to cafes and pop-ups and things like that happening, and I will just save them. Oftentimes though, I won't even check my save folder. I'll just like leave it there and then maybe months later do a clean out and be like, oh shoot, I meant to like check this. Or you know what, I'll save it to my Google Maps. And I'm notorious for having amongst my friends like 500 plus, at this point probably 750 plus places in New York City that I want to try, which it's kind of unhinged. With that being said, one of the things that gives me like slow dopamine the most is actually going and checking them off my list, like actually going, checking them out, and savoring the experience. And one way I make sure to savor the experience is by filming it. So I'll go and I'll film the interior and do a little review, and I find that not only is it like incredibly fun, but it really makes me think about the experience, process it. What am I tasting? What am I like experiencing in terms of ambiance and things like that? And it's just a new way it puts a new lens on each cafe experience that I have. Like, is it comparable to what I saw online? And not to make it like super critical or whatever, but it does make it a little bit more fun instead of just like, I'm just rushing in to grab my pickup order and then I'm going to get out and move on with my day. Like, no, I'm paying like $10 sometimes for this latte. Okay, I will sit there and I will savor it. Anyways, I do have a very, very, very fun list. So I wrote on one side quick dopamine or cheap dopamine and things that we can do to replace it. So this is our slow dopamine column. And I think, have 50 ideas here. And if I don't, I will add some in post production. Okay, so if you're addicted to quick social media, so I've been finding myself, unfortunately, getting into doom scrolling periods. Oftentimes, this is in the evening and I'm bored and or I have stuff to do, but I don't feel the energy or I don't feel like I have the energy to do it. And then I'll just hop on Instagram. Oh, another time that this happens is when I'm posting because I'm a quote unquote social media content creator. And so I'll post, and then people are saying that like you need to engage with other people's posts after you post so that Instagram or TikTok knows that you're not just like a bot. Because of that, though, I'll be like commenting on like my friends slash mutuals post, but then I'll like be scrolling on my For You to get engagement. And honestly, this ends up being a doom scroll. Like, let's be for real. And even though I have, like, don't even tell me, I have the notification slash time limit set up so that I'm specifically not supposed to go above like 30 minutes of my like usage for TikTok and Instagram. And it's crazy now because now I've gotten into the habit, like it's almost automatic. I'll just click snooze, snooze, snooze. TikTok is a little bit better because they'll fill up your whole page and be like that calming music, and it's like, oh, it's time to get up or whatever. And that usually actually helps me snap out of it. But Instagram is a little bit harder to do that. With that said, the first quick dopamine thing that we want to replace is quick social media reading slash like reading the captions of social media posts or the comment section. We can replace this with reading articles. We can take baby steps. Articles, I know people really like Substack articles. I myself have not really been able to get into it. I just haven't found like any authors or yeah, like subjects that I would really want to dive into Substack for necessarily. Also, the paywall thing is kind of throwing me off. I'm not going to lie. I do really like reading books. I have kind of fallen off my reading game, hence the increase in screen time. But things I'm reading include Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, I believe. And I'm reading that on Libby. So if you sign up with your local library card, you can just read it on like I believe they have it on Kindle, but I read it on my iPad and also my phone. It's just an app. And then once you hook up your library card to it, you can borrow ebooks from your library, and it's really awesome. The only con is that like for the popular books, it does take like weeks to months for me to get off the wait list and actually borrow the book. But I've been having some luck recently. It'll come in waves. It's kind of weird because I think I'm like borrowing them in waves where I'll be like, "Ooh, I want to like borrow X ABC book because I saw it at a bookstore," which is something I will do. I will go to bookstores, like big chain bookstores, and then I'll just like see their like bestseller table and then just like save those books to my TBR. But other books on my TBR include 50 Essays to Change the Way You Think. I think it's 50. Maybe it's 101 essays to change the way that you think. I recently read Isola, which was really good. I talked about Wild Dark Shore in my last video too. The Body Keeps Score is another book that I want to read. If you have Substack article recommendations or book recommendations, please drop them below. Okay, takeout. I'm actually pretty good about this, honestly. I was worse at this during the school year when I got tired of like our dining hall food, but this summer I've been really good about romanticizing cooking and creating meals at home / in the apartment. So I've really been loving like saving recipes that I see on Instagram and TikTok or Pinterest. Oh my goodness, Pinterest is an amazing recipe finder because people will take like really aesthetic photos of their food and like what they create or even what they bake, and it just makes you want to try it so badly. So today I tried tuna salad. I'm not ready to post it yet because I'm still working on the recipe. I added too much liquid, I believe, and it came a little bit runny, but it was okay because my rice cake that I put it on was pretty dry. I recently made the viral ground beef, sweet potato, cottage cheese bowl, including avocado and my own hot honey, aka sriracha plus honey. So I'm just saying, she's good. She's good. If you haven't tried it, you should because it's so simple to make. If I can make it, it's easy, and it actually doesn't take that much time. The only thing that takes time is the sweet potatoes, which you put in the oven / air fryer. Wait, that also gets me into baking. For those of y'all who don't know, I used to run a bakery in college, and one of my favorite things that I love baking is banana muffins. And I love how the sweetness naturally comes from ripened bananas for summer and then transition into fall. The baked goods that I've been seeing are more like pies or tarts. Lemon bars are another classic summer dessert. You could even do something super easy by recreating the air fryer like peach. So you could take a peach or a nectarine, you just pit it out, and then you pop it in the air fryer or your oven, and then with some sugar you glaze / bake that, and then top it with ice cream, or if you want like more on the healthier side, you can top it with yogurt drizzled with honey. Honestly, it works and it's super, super delicious. Specifically to counter the scroll / doom scroll issue is to create or recreate content. And what I mean by that is you can template or use somebody else's content as a template and recreate it using your own style. This obviously works for things like dance challenges on TikTok, but it could also work for trending content ideas. So if you see that like a certain text on screen trend is happening on socials this week, you could totally create your own version of that for your own niche or your own piece of content. You could also create original content. So whether that's podcast, YouTube, blah, 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 short form. Short form has a bit of a smaller learning curve, so that could also be another option. Plus, everyone loves to post like their non-committal, just for funsies content on TikTok, and I love seeing it. So on the other hand, you could also learn something challenging. Maybe this is a dance challenge, but maybe it's also something related to your career or your studies. This could also be something that you've been putting off. So, for instance, one thing that I might try that is challenging are like surgical skills. So, perhaps that's getting a practice suturing kit and practicing my suturing. Perhaps coding. You could learn how to do AI prompt engineering. Somebody who is interested in AI, who's interested in technology and the intersections of that with healthcare, that's a whole different story. But the point is that we are now living in the AI, not just digital, but AI age. So I think it's, well worth the effort to kind of dive into it. Now, onto a more lighter topic. If online shopping is your bane or is your Achilles heel, then I recommend in-person shopping. See, I'm like, I'm giving realistic advice here. In-person shopping, I find, is a little bit more of a slow dopamine release. The reason why I say this is because it's not just a click add to cart. It's I'm going to try this on. I'm going to feel the fabric, and I'm going to maybe even talk to the sales representative. strike up a conversation or just ask, like, do you have this in a different size? Like, it's okay. Even just like seeing yourself and imagining yourself with the garment on is more of a slow dopamine release than just looking at this gorgeous model on these websites and imagining yourself and then automatically comparing yourself to the image that you're seeing. Our next example, which is taking a walk or taking a shower, these may also improve your sense of well-being and contentness. I love taking a warm shower after the gym, which is the next recommendation for slow dopamine. So includes lifting heavier weights. This also includes cardio. And by the way, endorphins, their function is mostly for stress or pain relief. So that's how you can like push through that last mile and then get to that reward pleasure pathway through dopamine. Anyways, online shopping. Yes, we talked about that. Oh, you could also build your own outfits using the pieces that you already have in your closet. And they actually have apps for this where you can like scan each piece or input each piece of clothing that you have and then like build your own wardrobe if you really want to be on a device. Otherwise, like doing it the old fashioned way totally works. You could also put up those clothing pieces for sale on Depop, Vinted, etc., like ThreadUp, or take it to, for instance, a Goodwill, make a donation. Volunteering is another great example of this, where you give back to your community and perhaps meet new community members or friends in the process. That is an excellent way to gain, I guess, that piece of slow dopamine while also doing something amazing for your community and really building those long-standing connections. It's important to not only have a digital community, but also like an in-person community and show that you are a villager within our village. Kind of on the same vein as cooking for yourself, you could also make your own drinks. So if you really love a sweet treat or a coffee, I'm talking like a latte or a matcha in the morning. I love making my own matchas. I invested in my own matcha set. So I'll make and hand whisk my matchas at home in the morning, and then I'll take it wherever I go to study or to work. Journaling, I love bullet journaling. This not only includes writing, but also decorating the journal with the collection of stickers that I have somehow collected or friends have gifted me so graciously. Listening to music, I've been really vibing with like BTS and also old school BTS. Hint, hint, maybe a concert coming my way soon. Super excited about that. You could do current faves, you could listen to nostalgic faves. Honestly, some of the summer playlists from like 2016 have been really popping off and they're really good. So you could declutter slash clean your room. If you are in the online shopping mood, one way that I like to get out of that is to declutter and see all of the things that I actually have. Honestly, happiness, that quote, that happiness is not wanting more, but wanting what you already have. So you could create something. So creative hobbies, whether that's writing, artistic, like visual arts, such as drawing, painting. I loved painting when I was growing up and including in high school. I did a lot of oil painting. It was like totally my thing, and it really gave me just the thought and the feeling of seeing a completed piece after months of working on it. You go through the messy part where like your painting looks garbage and you just want to throw it away, but you get through it and then you see this like beautiful piece and you get to sign your name and then varnish it and whatever. Like that whole process is a very slow dopamine release. Okay, that also includes crafting, so DIYs. We can go back to the 2016 era for sure. Why don't we just bring it back to all those like YouTube videos of DIYs that you can do? Like I used to love watching Bethany Moda and the OG YouTubers like Alicia Marie, Miss Remy Ashton. Girl, I still watch her. Anyways, I would love watching their DIY videos. And especially for back to school, that was like my thing. I love the back to school season to watch all of those. Oh, I love Legos. That has always been a major source of dopamine for me during the holiday season when we would get a Lego set and build it together, like me and my brother. Ooh, other creative hobbies include pottery, knitting, paint by number. Those diamond number paintings are really fun. You could decorate, like for instance your concert light stick. You could DIY clothes, so that includes tie-dyeing. It also includes more fancier stuff, so like embroidery. You could do like those prints. I've been seeing some really cool like concert style like t-shirts, or like if you follow like a band or a group, kind of DIYing your own shirt or hoodie would be super fun. And one other thing I wanted to talk about for in terms of quick dopamine is eating or overeating, especially on sugary foods. That's kind of my kryptonite. And one thing that I'm still working through is kind of relying on sugary foods when I feel bored, anxious, stressed, tired. Every time like I feel, I guess, dysregulated, my brain has gotten into the habit of gravitating towards sugary foods, chocolate, etc. And I've been intentionally trying to break away from that pattern by doing creative hobbies like talking, editing videos, etc., making a matcha instead, to if I really want something like a sweet and like has some energy or caffeine to it, it will give me energy, I should say. So as I was saying though, part of like that overeating thing where you're just like eating your food kind of mindlessly, the slow dopamine counterpart to that is eating mindfully. So that includes chewing your food fully. 30, I've heard 30 to 40 bites. That sounds like a lot to me. So I will, I guess, try to do that and report on my progress next week. That also includes, putting your fork down, taking sips of water or your drink of choice in between your bites. These will also help you feel more full and avoid overeating. So I've heard. I will again implement these habits in my vlog slash in my actual life and report back. So in terms of connection, so instead of gossiping with your friends, you could center your hangouts around an activity. So that could be going to a cafe together. That could also be hanging out by playing board games, or card games is a fun one that I like to do. You guys could go to the gym together. You guys could go grocery shopping together. So you feed two birds with one scone. Y'all could watch a favorite TV show. I am not of the belief that watching TV or movies is necessarily quick dopamine, because those actually are longer than most people slash Gen Z's attention span at this point in time. So if you're watching a TV show without your phone and you're with your friends, you're laughing along, you're maybe providing commentary. I think that's great social connection. And honestly, if you're doing the same thing with a movie, cut the if you're in a movie theater, probably sans, the chatting and talking, I would hope, then that's also a great example of slow dopamine and of connection, especially if y'all do a debrief of the movie and a little review afterwards together. That would be great. Anyways, now for the activities that you can do solo. So this includes activities that you don't have, like let's say you're not around that many of your friends during the summer, they're in different cities, etc., etc. No worries at all. Taking a walk outdoors, getting sunlight. One thing I've been trying to do, even so simple, is to every morning wait 15 minutes before using or going on my phone, including social media, especially social media apps. And you'd be surprised how difficult it is at the beginning for you to not be on your phone right when you wake up. So I'll turn off my alarm and then just get myself ready for the day without my phone. Sometimes I do love, a YouTube video playing while I do my makeup. That will be after the 15 minutes, because the first 15 minutes, no phone. Next, you could clean your digital space. So this kind of brings us to cleaning and decluttering, but that includes your saved, posts on Instagram, on TikTok, etc. That could also include your watch later on YouTube. I am a watch later user. I didn't realize there were people who are not watch later users, but I am. So I love saving things on my watch later. Some videos have, I regret, been living there for a year or so. So exercise. You do not need other people to do yoga with you necessarily. There's tons of at-home yoga or exercise videos that you can follow. Pilates, dance. I love pulling up like a little K-pop, random mirror dance playlist. You could swim, play pickleball. You kind of do need a friend or at least a partner for this one, and tennis. But then guess what? You could do a challenge. So it could be a 7-day challenge, a 25-day challenge, a 50, a 75-day challenge. Every single day that you check off, I just have the app and I can like put an example here, but once I check off everything on my like app to-do list, my 75 hard list for that day, it does give me like a sense of fulfillment. And it does give me a little bit of that pleasure reward that we were talking about before. So you don't have your friends around you. What you can do is send a letter to your long distance friends, your pen pal, significant other. You could also make gifts for them. So when you do eventually see them, you won't be empty handed. Also, gifting is low key kind of my love language. So I love putting together like a little like stationery set if I know my friend likes stationery, or even just a thoughtful gift that I've DIY'd. Maybe it's like a little clay figurine or something, or even just looking online for things to save that I could potentially give them. So that includes scrapbooking photos of y'all together. You guys could put together a photo album, and this could also help with cleaning out your photos, which is another part of the digital reset. So these are all kind of like melding together to create one big melting pot of slow dopamine. Another thing you could do is play with your pet. Okay, I wish I had my dog with me here, but I don't and I miss her. Play dress up with your own clothing. Makeup. You could really experiment and play around with your makeup so that when you do have that special event to go to, your makeup doesn't look crazy and you don't feel super awkward because you've been practicing and you know what works and what doesn't. So, period. Similarly, you could practice doing your hair. You could do your hair for fun. You could do your nails, something I may need to do in the near future. You could also vision board, kind of related to the challenge thing. You could you could mood board for this coming school year, for the rest of your summer. You can make a rest of summer bucket list, which we talked about in the previous episode. You could also just like make a little bingo card. That's what I did. And yeah. Okay. I love making a Pinterest bucket list or a Pinterest mood board for each season of my life, just based on like what my goals are and what I'm hoping like the vibe. It's like curating a vibe for the season, for the week, for the month, what gives, what have you. Like, I love looking at that literally every single night before I go to bed. It fills me with such like sense of contentment. I would honestly say this is a serotonin booster. And yeah, I just love it. I also wanted to mention other things you could do to grow your brain or make new neural connections. So that includes learning a new language. You could also play or learn an instrument. You could study. So I know like that's the like S curse word of the summer, but you could get ahead on some of those topics that you are worried might be challenging for this upcoming school year. You could also work on a personal project. So use AI, like what I was saying. Like everyone is creating even businesses from which are basically AI slash GPT wrappers. Why not make your own? Why pay however much money people are charging nowadays, like $15 a month for basically a GPT-4 wrapper, when you could create your own or learn how to prompt Claude or ChatGPT to create products. And that is just my spiel on that. But I think that's a really exciting thing that you could do. And maybe you could even turn it into your own business if people are willing to pay for it. That brings us to the ultimate slow dopamine builder, which is accomplishing one small task or one goal per day. That's challenging yourself with one task or one small goal per day. I said that, hey, I really need to film this podcast, and accomplishing this by filming it has already increased my sense of accomplishment, my sense of trust in my ability to do the things that I said I was going to do. And that is dopamine to a T. If I haven't done 50 ideas by now. I will make a list of the rest of them.
One more thing is that I think it'll be easiest if I put all of the ideas that I listed into like a little worksheet or PDF that you can download. So check the link in the description box for that because it'll be there.
If you have other ideas for other slow dopamine activities or activities that I may have missed in my list, I feel like it was pretty comprehensive. But if I missed anything, feel free to comment it down below. And if you have any suggestions for upcoming podcasts/videos, then let me know too. So my handles on all social media platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify now on podcast, is It's Cafe Sunday. So I will see you next Sunday. Cheers.